Good afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to be looking at the effective study techniques that work. Okay. So number one, whether you are studying for exams, preparing for assignments, or trying to grasp complex topics, using this right technique can improve retention and understanding. Here are general study techniques that work across subjects. Okay. Number one, teach the material. That is why we encourage students to always join study groups, because in a study group, you have an opportunity to teach material to your peers. So it's very, very important to teach, because before you can teach material or teach content, you've got to understand it first. You can't teach something that you do not understand, or you can't explain something that you do not understand. If I say maybe, how do you cook rice? If you don't know how to cook rice, you can't tell me, you can't teach me how to cook rice. So it's important that you ensure that you understand the content. And as we go along, I will tell you, I will give you techniques that you can use to understand the material. Ask yourself questions. Test your understanding by quizzing yourself. Write down questions on that particular section and try and answer them, or use past papers and try and answer questions. That will give you an indication of whether you are grasping the information or not. Then use real-world applications. That is, give examples. You know, if maybe they are talking about maybe an example. I'm just going to give a stupid example. Maybe they are talking about fruit and then give examples of fruit. If you can't give examples, it's an indication that you do not know, that you are struggling with the concept. You must be able to give examples. Okay. Spaced repetition. What does that mean? Instead of trying to cram the work, review material at increasing intervals. You answer your questions today, you write them down. In 2 days' time, you check. In a week, you also check and see if you can still remember the answers or not. Remember, even if you are doing an assignment, it's preparation for exams. Whatever you do, if you are reading or studying, all you are trying to do, you are preparing for exams, because you want to pass at the end of the semester or at the end of the year. Practice testing, that is active recall. Take practice quizzes and past papers instead of rereading notes, because I will show you how to write or how to make notes. But then it's important also to just have questions and then be able to answer those questions. If you are struggling, then you go back to your notes and read your notes, or to the study guide or to the textbook. Okay. Self-test using flashcards. I don't know if you know what flashcards are. Flashcards, you take cards or pieces of papers, and then you write a question and you write the answer at the back. You read the question, you try and answer the question, and then if you're struggling, you go back, you look at the answer, but you must be able to give the answer in your own words. If you cannot give the answer in your own words and you are tempted to copy everything from the textbook or from the study guide, it's an indication that you are struggling and that you need to revisit the work so that you are able to understand. This is proven to boost exam performance better than passive revision. Passive revision is like you see it and you underline or you highlight, because some students consult with us and they say, I'm struggling. And then they say, what techniques are you using? I underline, I highlight, but that is passive, because you're just underlining and highlighting. You're not doing anything besides underlining and just highlighting. You should actually engage with the content. You must engage with the content. There is the mind map, which is also very useful. If you want, you can just make a mind map of the whole chapter, because it summarizes every things. So you use the mind maps, you use the diagrams, or you can use a flow chart if there are processes, because that will help you to connect the ideas. The mind map will help you to, as you can see, it connects ideas, and it's visual. So it will help because we are very different, especially visual learners. They will grasp concepts quickly if they use mind maps. Okay, the Feynman technique, some people don't like it because what he says is that if you can't explain something in simple ways, then you don't truly understand it. His method involves breaking down information into easy to understand language, ensuring deep comprehension. So he says, if you use these 4 steps, you will be able to understand the information, or it shows that you understand this information. Choose a concept. Say maybe you choose, there's a chapter in your book on budgeting. Teach it to a child or to a younger person. Explain it in the simplest way possible. Avoid jargon. Avoid all these complicated words. Try and teach it in the simplest way possible. And if the person understands, it shows that you also understand. Identify gaps, because when you teach a concept to a person, the person will ask questions. As they ask questions, then if you are able to answer questions, then it shows that you understand. But if you are not able to answer questions, it shows that you are struggling, and you go back and you read and you try and understand and you explain it again. Simplify and refine. Keep breaking it down until you can explain it clearly. Because if you are struggling to explain something, even if you are in a study group and you are struggling to explain something, it means there are gaps, and it's important, because then if you are in a study group, then other people are going to correct you. So it forces active recall, which strengthens memory. It exposes areas where you lack understanding, because the person that you are talking to will ask questions. It will help you to retain concepts more effectively. Multisensory learning. So you don't just write notes. What you do, you use multi-senses, like visual, you have your diagrams. Auditory, you must listen to podcasts, discussions, join study groups, and so on. Writing, like summarizing, rewriting key points, and so on. Kinesthetic, hands-on activities. What I used to do was to answer questions in flip chart, on the flip chart paper, or on the full scale. You'd use maybe a full scale paper, like these long exercise books, don't know what to call them. Then I'd write the answers and paste these pieces of papers on the wall, and I will walk around saying, okay, this is budgeting, characteristics of a good budget, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are the components of a budget? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the difference between needs and wants? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, while I'm moving around. So if you use all the senses, you better understand the work, or the retention of the work would be actually good, because you are using all your senses. Study groups and peer discussions, I've said a lot about that. Explain topics to each other. Teaching others improves retention. Debate different viewpoints. You sit and you debate viewpoints with other people. It helps in subjects like philosophy, law, business, and any other subjects. But if you have a study group, keep study groups small. Don't make them too big, because then other people won't get an opportunity to share. But if it's a small group, like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 people, then everyone is going to get an opportunity to share knowledge, which is important. Healthy study habits. Get enough sleep, guys. Lack of sleep will weaken your memory. Remember, you have 24 hours in a day. Please sleep for 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours. Eat brain boosting foods. Don't eat junk, and don't overeat before studying. Say you are going to study and then you eat a whole plate of samp. What happens? You feel sleepy. So important to try and just eat healthy food before studying. Stay hydrated, because if you are dehydrated, you will not be able to focus. Why staying hydrated is important, which means you just drink water. Drinking enough water while studying is crucial for brain function and concentration. Even mild dehydration, as little as 1 to 2%, can negatively impact memory, focus, and cognitive performance. I always say to students, even if you are going to write an exam, please take a bottle of water with you. It's important, because then if you are dehydrated, even before an exam, take a glass of water to make sure you are hydrated, because then your focus would be better. If you are hydrated, it will boost your concentration, it will enhance your memory, it will prevent headaches, it will regulate your mood, it's going to support your brain function. The brain is 75% of water, so don't keep it dehydrated, because that will slow your processing speed. So, and also exercise. Even if it's not hectic exercise, just walking around for like 30 minutes, that's important, because then that will also help with the mood. Final tip, find what works for you. Remember, we are all different. So there's nothing like a one size fits all. Try different techniques and stick with what works for you. Mix up strategies, mind maps, practice testing for best results. That's the first section. Then the second section, SQ4R reading strategy. Guys, this strategy works. But if it doesn't work for you, it's okay. But I've used it and it worked for me, and I've taught it to so many students, and it works for many students. Step number 1, what do you do when you are going to study? Begin by step 1 is survey. That is, begin by getting a general sense of the material before diving into the details. You take a textbook, you open the chapter, example on budgeting, and you look at the chapter, you look at the heading, you look at the subheadings, you look at what is written in bold, you look at what is underlined, you look at the pictures if there are any pictures, and so on. Why? It provides an overall understanding of the material, and it helps you get focused and organized. And if you are focused and organized, your thoughts are also going to be focused and organized. And it makes it easy to start reading, because you will look at all these headings, subheadings, you look at the questions at the end, the introduction, the conclusion. You are just surveying the chapter. You are paying close attention to headings, subheadings, chapter titles, illustrations, charts, diagrams, bolded text, and so on, because you want to get a general idea. What is this chapter all about? Because then, if you survey the chapter, you then begin to understand what you are going to be studying. Number 2, questions, which is crucial. Transform headings or key terms and bolded words into questions before reading. This approach keeps you actively engaged and encourages critical thinking. Convert all the headings and subheadings into questions using who, what, when, where, why, and how to deepen your understanding. That is very important, guys, because otherwise it's so boring to try and just read and read and read. But if you take all the headings and then you convert the headings into questions, say for example, the heading is components of a budget, then you formulate a question. What are the key components of a budget? And then you start reading. Sorry. And as you read, that is step 3. What are you trying to do? You are trying to find answers to the questions that you have formulated. Read actively with the goal of answering the questions that you have formulated. You now have all these questions that you have formulated. Now you look at the book, you're reading, and as you read, it's active because you are trying to answer the questions that you have formulated. It depends on different people. Other people prefer to formulate all the questions and then go back and answer them one by one. I prefer to formulate one question, but that is me, and then read to answer the question. Then the next question, I formulate the next question, I read and answer the question. And it's important not to copy word for word from the textbook or from the study guide, because that shows the fact that you are tempted to copy word for word is an indication that you are struggling. But if you can read and then answer in your own words, it's an indication that you understand what you are reading. Step number 5, recite. Summarize the key points aloud to reinforce learning. You can teach members of your study group or your family. Reciting is crucial for retention because it prevents the false sense of knowing the material without truly understanding it. If you just write, you're not sure whether you know or not. But if you are supposed to teach other people, then that is when you realize, I'm struggling with this. I still have questions. I don't know what to do, this, that. Then that is when you will seek help, which is important, because when you are studying and you have formulated questions, you'll find that you will struggle with finding, or not even finding, writing the answers, some of the answers, or understanding some of the concepts. And that is when you need to seek help. And that is why I say to you, it's important, guys, to be in a study group, because reciting tests your comprehension. It strengthens your memory, retention by reinforcing connections to prior knowledge. Engaging in a read, record, recite cycle enhances learning. You read, you record, which means you write it down, and then you recite, you say it. That will enhance your learning. It will enhance the retention of knowledge. Then the next step, you review. Regular review sessions help transfer information from short-term memory to long-term memory, because you want to store this information in your long-term memory for your exams. Consider these review techniques. Answer end of the chapter review questions. You are done now with all the questions that you have formulated and you have answered them. And then you look at the questions that are at the end of the study guide, or at the end of the chapter of the study guide, or at the end of the chapter in the book. Revisit the questions you created earlier. Study and recite your notes. Summarize key concepts in your own words. Use study aids such as flashcards. I told you about flashcards at the beginning of the workshop. Outlines or visual notes. Practice problems from your textbooks or classwork to reinforce learning. By following the SQ4R method, you can improve comprehension, boost retention, and develop more effective study habits. Because to sit and study, it's not easy. That's why people register and deregister. Because it's not easy. That's why people register and not do some of the assignments, because it's not easy. But if you have a method that you are going to use to understand the information, it's better. Then the Cornell method of note-taking and note-making. Okay, because this is a distance university, we don't really have note-taking, but I just added it because it's part of the Cornell method. What I want us to focus on is note-making. This note making or not taking method was invented by Professor Walter Paul of Cornell University in the 1950s, but it still works. What is this Cornell method? Okay. What is important, guys, is for me, I prefer to have exercise books, these long exercise books, the big ones, because if I write something down by hand, I tend to remember it. But if I type, I don't know, for some reason, I remember part of the work and not everything. But research indicates that that is true. Because if you write by hand, you must think and you write one word like needs, wants, budget, how they are related, and so on. But it's up to you. We are different, and I'm older. You must remember that at a young age. And if you would, it's easy to make corrections as well. Okay, someone is saying, I'm struggling to concentrate. If you are struggling to concentrate, there could be many, many reasons. Like I said, some of these things are not just a one size fits all. Can you stop sharing? It's not a one size fits all. So I don't know what is going on in your life, whether it's just a study technique, or maybe sometimes you find that you can't concentrate. You find that you can't concentrate because maybe of your anxiety or your depression, or maybe you are preoccupied with something. There's something that's going on in your life. And while you're trying to study, it keeps on, like you keep on thinking about this thing. Or maybe you have your cell phone on, and instead of focusing on the work, you're also focusing on your cell phone. That cell phone, this thing, yo, I wish, I don't know. It's so bad to have this on and the notifications on if you are studying. This is your worst enemy when it comes to the assimilation of knowledge. If you can, please just put the phone away for 45 minutes. You study and then you take a break, a 15 minutes break. Some people prefer to study for an hour and then take a 15 minutes break. But please don't study for 15 minutes and take an hour break because that's not very helpful. You study, and then when you take a break, you can check your messages. Put your phone on silent. Put it away, because this is your worst enemy. It's not going to do you any good. It's going to disturb you. I'm talking from experience. I know. If I have my cell phone on, I also can't concentrate. I'm not saying it's because of the cell phone. That's why I said there could be many reasons. And my advice would be, if you're struggling with concentration, please book an appointment to see one of the counselors so that we hear your story and we tailor-make the intervention according to your needs. Because I can't really say for concentration, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it depends. Maybe what if I say do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's because you are anxious, or because you are struggling with depression, or something is worrying you. You are unhappy. Maybe your relationship is not going well and you are unable to concentrate. Thank you. So please book an appointment, but it could be any of those. Hello.
Rokia, you can go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, I don't know, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, so I don't want to get it wrong, but I wanted to ask
Zama.
you,
Just say Zama. Yes.
Zama, did you study through Unisa, or did you do online study? Because I'm a first year student and full-time employed, and I've been struggling a lot, not to concentrate, but I do allocate time, but there's so many modules, so many different things happening at so many different times. I just wanted to ask you if you maybe have any like words of assurance or words of advice on how to manage it, because it's all quite overwhelming and the deadlines are quite it puts a lot of pressure as well. But I know it's about discipline, it's about allocating, carving time out. But do you have any words of advice on to not lose your mind before even getting started.
Okay. This is time to support each other. Guys, come up with strategies. What do you think? I did my undergrad with Unisa. My BA. Did my BA with Unisa. Yo, it was difficult. It's difficult. Okay. Any suggestions from other students? Sharin? Sharin did her BA and a BA honors with Unisa. Any words of encouragement, what you want to say, whatever you want to share. Hey guys, it's not easy. It's very difficult. To be a student is very difficult, especially if it's distance learning like Unisa, where you are supposed to study for yourself and there are no lectures. It's not easy. That is why I encourage study groups, because in study groups you will get support. Sharin, do you want to share? Okay, let me just respond to that. Like I said, I did my undergrad with Unisa, and those days there were no computers. As you can see, I'm not young. There were no computers, but to just take, the textbook and actually read, it's very, very difficult. So that is why we are giving you guys these strategies to say, just try this. If it works for you, it will work for you. But if it doesn't work for you, try what you have used and maybe it will work. That's why I'm saying it's not a one size fits all. It's not. It's not a one size fits all. You just try different strategies until you get what works for you. And the other thing is consistency. When I'm at home, if I sit on my bed, I honestly can't work. I just feel like sleeping. I get so tired. But if I go and sit in the room and I just sit there and I put my phone away, it works better. And my mind, when I sit in my dining room, then it's like, now I know it's time to study because I'm sitting here. Because I've done it so many times. So my brain remembers, this is a place where I study. So to develop those habits is very, very important. You can't be lying on your bed and then trying to study. That's not studying, you are just reading. And in actual fact, to be honest, you are wasting your time. I don't know if that is helpful or not. Try to develop these habits. If you study between 8 and 10, study between 8 and 10 every day. Because then your body knows at 8 o'clock, I need to sit. Your brain will remember that. At 8 o'clock, I need to sit down and work.